Josh Mueller here with Life's Rabbit Hole, and this is the next video in our leadership training series. And what we're going to talk about today is how leaders need to be change makers in order to lead their organization at the best of their capabilities. So have you ever been in a position where you feel like, change needs to be made, but you're not quite sure what that change needs to be, or where you would go to even find out how to discover that? Or maybe you've helped make change in your organization, but you just get frustrated because that change won't stick. Or maybe your people just aren't open to making that change, or they're not very receptive to it. Or maybe you know that there's something personally that you need to change about yourself, but you just have a hard time actually committing to it or making it happen. Well, we're going to talk about three main things today. First is going to be the mindset that you need to have in order to actually make change something that is realistic and possible, and also long-lasting for yourself and for your organization. Then we're going to talk about how you actually discover what that change needs to be and actually getting that change implemented. And then finally we'll talk about actually how to manage that change and make that change long-lasting and make that something that works for your organization long-term and your people. So the first thing that we want to talk about really is that leaders are change makers. Plain and simple fact is that in order to actually lead, you also have to be willing to change and make things better. That's part of being a leader. People won't want to continue following you if they're not seeing improvement and growth. So first, let's talk about the mindset. There's two different types of mindsets that exist out there, and the first is fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is really, all that means is that it's a person who believes that your talents, your characteristics, your creativity, your skill sets, they're just set. They just are what they are, they're static, and they can't be changed. No matter who you are, where you come from, you are who you are, and that's it. People with a growth mindset, though, they believe that change is possible regardless of who you are, regardless of where you come from. It's that simple. And actually a lot of people have asked me, does having a growth mindset mean that I'm always pushing, always growing the numbers, always going to the next level, always push, numbers, and making things better and better and growing things from a numbers standpoint? And I'm here to tell you that that is not what a growth mindset is. A growth mindset simply means that you're open to change when you need to make it. Next, let's talk about how you actually encourage a growth mindset in your people. So, as a leader, you have to be committed to having a growth mindset. I want to share a quick story with you. And, for me, I've had multiple experiences in my life where I've had to shift from a fixed mindset into a growth mindset. And a lot of times I didn't even recognize that that's what's going on. I remember, for example, when I was a teenager and in high school, I was the type of person where I had great parents and they really wanted to help me, and they were always sharing advice with me and trying to help me grow. But I had a bad attitude. I was the type of teenager who, I knew everything, and I didn't care what my parents thought. In fact, I thought my parents were stupid a lot of the times. And I was that type of person where I just didn't really want to hear other people's advice, and I figured I knew how to do it and could figure out how to do it on my own. And what ended up happening was, I was 18 years old. I missed the last day of high school with all of my friends because I was in jail for the third time, and my dad had to come pick me up from jail and bring me home. And I remember that day was a very important day for me, because that was the moment that I realized that the way I was doing things and what I thought I knew obviously wasn't serving the long-term purpose that I was trying to accomplish, and that something needed to change. And so I went through a process of actually changing and starting my own business and becoming successful, and here I am years later doing what I do. And looking back on that experience, what I realized was that all that was happening in my life was I was facing the fact that I had a fixed mindset where I believed that I was who I was and I was going to get whatever I got in life based off the static skills that I had. And I shifted into a growth mindset where I believed that, it doesn't matter who I am or where I come from. I can make change and I can create the life that I want to create for myself. So let's talk about how you actually encourage a growth mindset within your people. It starts with, as a leader, really just understanding and listening to, being aware of the dialogue that your people are using. The way that people say things about themselves or about the other people in your organization, their teammates, can be can give you very good clues as to what type of mindset they may be in. People in a fixed mindset, for example, when they talk about themselves, they may say something like, well, I'm just not an organized person. It's like part of their identity. Or when they talk about other people, they may say, oh, he's just not as smart as he could be, right? and you know, the people with the growth mindset, they say it in a different way. Their dialogue's a little different. It has a shift to it. And that shift is simply something along the lines of, you know, I know I could be a more organized person, or, you know, I want to learn more about how to get more organized. Or they look at someone else on the team and they say, yeah, you know, they're doing the best with what they have, but they could definitely be doing a better job. Those are people who have a growth mindset. So if you want to actually get your people to shift into growth mindset more often, pay attention to their dialogue and actually help them understand the difference between the two. Also, the way that you recognize people and their efforts is a huge thing that can help encourage a growth mindset. You know, if you recognize the result, for example, of someone being organized, then you only will be able to give them recognition when they become an organized person. If you actually recognize the behavior of the growth that they're trying to make, maybe what they're doing to learn how to be more organized, or the small tasks that they're implementing or systems they're building into place to become more organized, recognize the behavior instead. What that does is it reinforces that behavior. So as a leader, you will actually foster more commitment to that growth because you're recognizing that behavior that you want to see more of. So people will grow faster and they'll grow farther because you're giving them recognition in the right places. And then the third thing would be the opportunity. You know, you as a leader, part of your duty is to provide your people with opportunities. You know, if you help them discover a change that they want to make, or you're supporting them in a change and you're recognizing the right behaviors, you know, they can go figure out how to do it on their own. But as a leader, if you want your people to be long-term committed to you and actually want you to continue to lead them at the highest of levels, provide them with the opportunity as a leader. Give them books that they can read, for example. Invite them to a seminar. Run workshops, meetings, training conference calls, whatever you need to do to actually give them access to the opportunity to grow in that area that they want to grow. So now that we've talked about mindset, let's talk about how you actually make change. So there's 3 steps to making change. The first is investigating, collecting information and actually looking at that information to figure out what needs to be changed. The second is, once you have the information, analyze that information. The best businesses in the world, they don't make decisions based solely on feelings, for example, or solely on what they think needs changed. They make those decisions based on the analysis of the information they've collected of whatever it is that they're looking at. So really, change is simply just a combination of being open to the idea that things could change and then being aware of exactly what's going on so that you can identify what needs to be changed. It's really the difference between making decisions based on fact and decisions based on feeling. You may hear people in your organization, or you yourself may say things to yourself like, I feel like this is happening. And feelings may be really good indicators of where you need to look and dig a little deeper, but you never want to make decisions based solely on feelings, because feelings can change from day to day. It's the facts that you want to look at. What do the facts actually tell you? So that comes from gathering the information and then analyzing that information. And the third thing is, once you've determined based on the facts and the analysis what it is that you want to change, then you have to figure out what you want to test and get it implemented. Once you test something and you get something implemented, it's really easy to go back and see, how's that doing? How's that going? So that's the next thing I want to talk about, which is how do you make change long lasting? Because it doesn't matter what it is that you're changing. You can always gather information, analyze the information, and then test and implement the new change. But great leaders understand that the other thing that they need to do is actually manage that change and keep that change rolling so that it can make a long-term impact in a positive way on your organization. So how do you lead that change? Right? Sometimes leading change is just about being the first person to try something. You know, it's very easy to actually look at what someone else is doing and then copy that and make it work for you if you're not already doing it. And you see that other person or that other organization is already getting great results in that same area that you want to change. But sometimes you may recognize that you need to change something and nobody else has ever done it before. You have to forge that path. That's part of leadership. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story about something that I experienced, which was, I've been part of of a sales organization for years, and one of the things that we do is we set up our displays at trade shows and sell products. And one of the things that we used to do is we used to carry a lot of inventory with us. And this was great because, you know, customers had the convenience of cash and carry, and our reps had product there that they could hand and give customers that immediate gratification. Well, when we realized that we wanted to double and triple the number of events that we were setting displays up over, you know, the course of the next year or 2 years in our plan, we realized that, you know, having to order all of that product and have it on hand and inventory that product was going to actually take a lot of extra time and could actually end up being a detriment for our business. I mean, it wasn't a perfect system because, you know, having to show up earlier and stay later every day for inventory is not convenient for people. And also, I mean, if product came up missing, that was a cost and an expense that had to be covered by our team because we had that product on loan. And so, you know, it ended up making things less profitable when things like that happened. So it was kind of stressful, you know, at times. And so as we scaled that, we realized that there may be an opportunity here to change this to make it better for our people and better for our customers. And so, you know, we gathered some information to find out, you know, if we did not carry product at our events anymore, would that affect us in a positive or negative way? And we analyzed all of the information that we gathered to figure out, would this be good or would this be bad? And you know, I looked at it and said, okay, I think that this could be something that would be better for our customers. It could be something where customers would appreciate not having to carry the product around. And it could be something where our reps would be more excited because they don't have to show up an hour early every day anymore, and they don't have to stay an hour late anymore to do the inventory. And plus, if we don't have product, we don't lose anything. If we don't lose anything, then we don't have to be charged for that. So it makes us more profitable overall. The fear, though, was that when I introduced this to the team, the fear was that by losing that convenience, customers would get upset or people would sell less because the product is not there. So I had to be the first person to try. I had to be the leader that stepped out and said, you know what, I'm going to do this anyways because nobody else is doing it. And there's only one way to find out if it'll work or not. So I stepped out and made it happen. I was the first person to try. And what ended up happening was that we found that what we thought might happen was actually true, which was that customers appreciated not having to carry stuff around with them because we just shipped it to them for free. And our reps actually sold more because they didn't have to turn around and grab product. They didn't have to sort through boxes to fill an order for a customer. And there was no more loss, so things were more profitable. So not only did their average order go up and did they sell more orders on a day-to-day basis, but they also had less stress. And so it ended up being a big win overall. But had I just listened to the team as the leader, or had I listened to the other people who told me that I was crazy for even considering this, I would have never tried that and we would have never been able to scale to where we scaled to, or if we had scaled to that, it would have been really stressful because we'd have been trying to manage all of the product to go along with it. So and then the second thing, the leading the change, is actually consistent analysis. As a leader, you have to be committed to the consistent analysis. Once you've made a change, go back and revisit and find out, are things actually improving or are things getting worse? The last thing you want to do is make a change and then not pay any attention to how that change is impacting you, your team, or your business, because if it's a negative change and you're not paying attention to, like, you're not consistently analyzing things after the change is made, you will never know that it's a negative change until it's too late. So you want to be in a position where you're doing what I call progress checkpoints. Block time in your calendar where you're going to, once you've made a change, you're going to go back and you're going to see how is that change impacting your business, your team, or whatever organization that you're a part of. Let's talk about the action steps from today. First, determine what needs to be analyzed or measured in your organization. So what is it that you need to pay closer attention to when it comes to the results on a more consistent basis? Then what you want to do is you want to figure out, gather the evidence and look over that evidence to determine what areas need to be improved. So, you know, in a business, for example, there may be 10 different ways that you have revenue coming into your business. Well, you want to look at every single one of those areas and see how they're functioning and measure the results, and then based on the measurement of those results, analyze and figure out what areas could you be doing a better job in, and then pick one area and go change it. So then after that, make a plan of action. What changes do you actually want to make? Sometimes you may not know the information, so you need to go do some research, buy a book and read a book on the topic, or maybe reach out to somebody else in your organization who's already getting the results that you want. But regardless, you want to make a plan of action for what needs to change and how you're going to change it. And then the last thing is analyze the results again after the change has been made so that you can see how it's impacting you positively or negatively. And then if it's positive, reinforce it. Keep moving it forward. Communicate that vision, communicate that change, communicate the positive results over and over and over again to your organization and all of the rest of the people that you influence. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. Your commitment to this leadership video really says a lot about who you are, and we're so excited to be a part of your path towards your journey towards success. And I just want to leave you with a quote on this particular topic. It's a great quote by Jim Rohn, and Jim says, "Your life does not get better by chance, it gets better by change." And we'd love to hear any testimonials, thoughts, or comments that you have, questions that you have as well. That's what we're here for, and I just want to say thanks for joining us here at Life's Rabbit Hole, where you'll find your doorway to a new world.